Welcome to another episode of our brand new Data Cloud video series. My name is Aditya and I am a developer advocate at Salesforce. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can programmatically load data into Data Cloud using the Ingestion API. Salesforce, as all of us know, has taken an API-first approach when building its products, and Data Cloud is no different. It offers a bunch of different APIs for you to interact with both data and metadata. And for you to explore these APIs, we offer a Postman collection that you can download from the Salesforce Developers workspace on the Postman API network. One of these APIs is the Ingestion API, which provides a RESTful interface to programmatically load data into Data Cloud. It offers both bulk and streaming interaction patterns. With the bulk pattern, you can use a CSV file to upsert or delete large data sets. On the other hand, with the streaming ingestion pattern, you can use JSON to send in micro batches of data. Once the data is ingested, Data Cloud processes this data in near real time, which is once every 15 minutes. Here is a table that provides guidance on when you have to use the bulk pattern and when you have to use the streaming pattern. You can pause the video and take a look at it. Setting up the Ingestion API requires both a developer and an admin. There are 4 steps. First, you must set up the Ingestion API connector from Data Cloud Setup. Then, you must create and deploy a data stream using this connector. Next, from the Salesforce setup, you need to create a connected app so that you can use it to request for an access token using any of the Salesforce supported authorization flows. Finally, with the access token that you have, you can call the Ingestion API. Let's now see it in action. We are working with a fictitious company called Solar Circles, who has installed solar panels across various customer sites. These solar panels continuously emit data regarding their performance, and we are going to use the Ingestion API to capture this data. So the first step is to set up the connector. From Data Cloud Setup, let's click on Ingestion API. Here, you can set up different connectors, one for each system that you want to integrate with. Let me create one for solar panel events. Now this connector can be used to capture different kinds of data. For example, a panel might send in events once a day related to its performance that has fields like panel ID, date, daily CUF, and more. It might also send more frequent data about its readings like voltage, temperature, light intensity, and current. So you need to upload a schema that describes the shape of this data that you're going to be sending in. And this schema is created in the YAML format that depicts these different event types and the fields that they contain. Once this YAML file is created, you need to upload it to the connector. Once uploaded, you can see that each event type is created as an object, and inside each object, it has all the different fields that you specified in the YAML file. With this, we are done with step 1. Now on to step 2, which is to create a data stream. From the Data Stream tab in Data Cloud, let's click New and choose Ingestion API. Now let's pick the connector from which we want to create the stream from. In the next screen, you will see all the different objects that you have previously defined in this connector. You can choose any number of objects, and one data stream will be created for each object that you choose. For now, let's just choose Performance Summary and click Next. For each object that you choose, you need to specify its category. There are 3 categories. First, engagement, for objects that capture engagement details like interactions and events. Profile, for objects that capture information about a person. And other, for objects that don't fall into either category, like your product inventory, payments, and so on. For this object, let's choose engagement. You'll then have to specify which field in this object is the primary key. Since each engagement happens at a particular time, you'll have to choose which field captures this time value. Click Next and then click on Deploy. You will be taken to the detail page of this new data stream. Each data stream has a corresponding data lake object that is automatically created. Any data that you send to the stream via API, it gets dumped into this data lake object. You can then query this data lake object to see if data is coming in or not. You'll learn more about data lake objects in the upcoming videos in this series. With this, we are done with step 2. Now on to step 3, which is to create a connected app. Align with your developer on the connected app setup and the OAuth flow being used. Salesforce offers different types of OAuth flows like client credentials, JWT, user agent. So decide on which flow you want to use and set up the connected app accordingly. In this demo, I'll be using a JWT flow, so I've set up my app according to that. In OAuth scopes, you must select CDP Ingest API, and refresh token in order to use the ingestion API. Let's now complete our final step, which is to authenticate to the API and call it. For this demo, I'll be using the Postman collection to call the API. In this collection, we need to first set the variables for authorization, which is the client ID, client secret, and private key since it's a JWT flow. This collection already has the code to request for an auth token before making an API call, so we need not worry about writing that code. Let's now make a request to the streaming ingestion API endpoint. In this endpoint, you need to specify the connector name, which we previously created, and the object name, which corresponds to the event type in the schema. Here, I'm sending the performance summary event on behalf of the solar panel. In the body of the request, I'm going to send the data in a JSON format, which contains the fields for the performance summary object. Once you send the request, and if it is successful, you get a response with the accepted property set to true. This means that Data Cloud has accepted your data and it will process it in the next 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, you can check if your data is loaded correctly or not by going to the Data Explorer tab in Data Cloud. Within the Explorer, let's choose Data Lake object. And let's choose the data lake object that corresponds to the data stream for ingestion API. As you can see here, the record that we sent from the API has successfully been captured. During your development phase, you can use a synchronous record validation endpoint to quickly validate your payloads and check if they are formatted correctly or not. This endpoint doesn't commit any data to the database, just like test classes. If your request fails validation, it shows why. Here, it shows that the reading value must be a number, but I am passing a string. So once I fix that and fire the request again, you can see that it passes. Now the bulk ingestion pattern, on the other hand, requires a few more steps. First, you need to create a job, and then you can upload one or more CSVs to the open job. And once you are done uploading all the required CSVs, you need to close the job so that it starts processing in the background. And you can then monitor the job to check the processing status. Now let's see this in action. In this example, Solar Circles is going to try and load legacy performance data into Data Cloud. So first, let's create a job using the create job endpoint. In the body of the request, specify the connector name and the object name. Once the job is created, let's copy the job ID. Notice the job status is open, which means we can now upload CSV files to it. To upload a CSV file, let's go to the upload job endpoint, add the copied job ID to the URL, and in the body of the request, let's add the CSV data. The CSV file must have the columns as per the schema definition of the performance object. Once you hit send, it shows the response. And if successful, the accepted property is set to true. Once you have uploaded all your CSV files in the same mechanism, you can close the job using the close job endpoint. Once the job is closed, Data Cloud is going to start processing this data, and you can monitor the status of the processing using the getJobInfo endpoint. The status right now shows in progress. In some time, once the processing is done, it's going to show the status as job complete. And that's how you use Ingestion API to load data into Data Cloud. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to the Salesforce Developers YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so that you get notified whenever we upload new videos.